Hello, this is the second painting in my Venice series, and I wanted to push things further in this one. I want stronger shapes, clearer structure, and a scene with more presence. It's a Venice canal, and the focus here is on composition and light. The bridge sits off centre, the buildings frame the space, and everything leads your eye straight through the painting. The palette's tight, there's warm ochres, muted reds, and there's a cool sky to balance the heat. There's nothing complicated, just deliberate choices to keep the atmosphere consistent. I'll talk through the decisions as the painting develops, but the aim is simple: make the big shapes work and let the scene carry itself. Now I've wet the paper where the sky is. I'm going to be applying cobalt blue and lavender. The brush I'm using is a 1-inch flat by Rosemary & Co. This is the series 222. Run the paint along the top and let it run down. I've got the board at a slight angle so that it helps the colours run down. And with this flat brush, I've got quite a nice edge to cutting along this edge of the top of the building. I want to keep this sky colour clear of the buildings. I also want it to be fairly even, so the paper's quite wet, so it gives me the opportunity to just go over the entire sky again briefly, just to take any bits out of the sky that I need to take it out and leave the wash flat. This will dry quite a bit lighter. Now the next brush I'm using is a size 12 Rosemary & Co. pointed round. This is the series 301. And I'm using light red and some Chinese white, which I think makes a nice colour for one of these old buildings here that overlook the canal. Paper I'm using is Arches £300, not paper. And I'm going to come down this building on the left hand side first, leaving some white areas. You'll see that I've got a pencil outline of all the buildings and the canal and the bridge. And if you wanted to have a go yourself and you wanted the outline drawings, it's available on my Patreon site, which I'll talk about later on. Nice strong mix. Bringing it down, not completely to street level, and then I just add a little bit of sepia to the mix. You just want to dirty it up as such. Really, these buildings aren't pristine by any means. Some of them are in need of a paint. Now I'm using sepia and Payne's grey, and once again just dipping into that little pool of white I've got there. I'm going to do the pavements just below that building on the left. Being mindful where I'm painting is so that I can just carry on painting without having to stop and dry it, which I will have to do eventually. But I don't want it to be wet running into wet or wet against wet. Wet runs in. I want these lines to be quite sharp against each other, the different colours, so I'm making sure they don't touch each other. And just darkening up that dark red colour to do the bank, the red river bank there. Now you'll see, looking at this this arrangement that I've done here, this composition, that the bridge is the anchor, and how everything feeds into it. The canal, the reflections, the verticals of the buildings, and also these tall buildings frame the space and they give the scene direction, and there's going to be no clutter and no unnecessary detail. Loose painting's fine as long as it all looks the same and you haven't got areas that are tight and other areas that are loose. And the colours I'm going to be using are warm ochres and muted reds for these buildings. Now this is a three colour mix here. I'm using cadmium yellow, and a little bit of a Chinese white, and some alizarin crimson just to take off that yellow. And once again, starting from the top, working down, still using the size 12 brush and leaving some white spaces and going around where I've drawn the windows as well as I come down. Just dirtying that up with some of the upper colours on the palette. You can see I'm using a large palette with quite a large area to mix my paints on, and I can dip into some of the colours and add them to other colours if I want to while they're still wet. Just dirtying this colour up now with sepia, making that a little bit darker. Working quite quickly with this one. It's best to try and work as quickly and as efficiently as possible, really. Once you start to work too slow, you lose this kind of looseness, randomness. If you stop and think too hard. And you can see what I'm doing here, just dipping into colours just to vary the tones of these walls. Just going wet into wet with the wet paint that's already there, the yellow colour. And finishing off with the buildings to the right with this light red mixture that's got other colours in it. doing the distant buildings now. I don't make too much of these. Just a kind of an off-white colour on these. Not being too fussy with them. Now using Payne's grey to do this shadow area of the bridge, the underneath of the bridge going into the water. I want this to really stand out. Draw the eye into the picture. There's a little area on the bank there as well. Just going to do that with this same mixture, Payne's grey. I'm going to be doing some more paintings from this series of Venice, and if you quite like this subject matter, just let me know in the description below. Yeah, and I'll be happy to do some more. Venice is a lovely place to paint. Just going in with some lighter grey colour now with these where the windows are. As you can see, I'm not being exact with everything. Just putting in some mid-tones there on these openings in the buildings. I'm not painting every window. The buildings are really quite complex, and if you get involved in painting every detail, it then becomes quite a tight painting and takes an exceptionally long time, and it loses its freshness, I think. So I just give this the impression of windows, balconies. It's all very ornate. Switch brushes now. I'm now using a size 6. This is Rosemary & Co. Sable Blend Series 402. It's one I've been using for a little while now. Quite like this for doing some of the intricate parts. I'd say this is, for me, this is one brush up from a rigger. And quite a new brush, so it's got a lovely new point on it, quite springy. Just going around filling in some of these windows. Not being too fussy with these. Trying to keep it consistently same kind of marks, some wider than others, and not filling in every white space with these, and even less detail down the right hand side there. Now I'm using the light red again, more or less straight out of the paint well. Just an indication of the terracotta tiled roofs on the left and the right hand side. Just about to see these. There's a chimney pot there. Put that in the same colour. And then while I'm about it, just breaking up that red paint there on the left with a few dashes, impression of some bricks or blocks or something. And there's a doorway there which I'm going to be painting. And once again, not really going down to the street level with that, not worrying too much about the bottom of the painting there. I've let that dry now, or I've dried it off, and I'm losing some of these pencil marks now that I don't really want there on the bridge, on that path, and around some of these window frames. These days I've been taking off some of these pencil marks. I used to leave them on, but I prefer to take a lot of them off now. So it's quite easy if it's unpainted white paper. One thing you must make sure is that the paint's completely dry, because it does make a mess if you try to erase the pencil marks and the paint's slightly wet, and it damages the paper as well quite easily. Now I'm still using the size 8 brush to do these finer details. This is going to be the soffits of these buildings, and I'll go around the windows as well. In reality, these are quite ornate, but I'm going to make it as simple as possible. It's worth having a go at this type of painting, even though it can seem a bit advanced. But if you see the way I simplify things and have a go doing it that way, and you might find that it helps you develop. These can be quite intimidating, these facades in Venice. And yes, you do want to paint everything. Just putting in some shadow with this brush. And there's this balcony that is on this particular part of the building. This is all carved stone and all looking very ornate, but quite difficult to do if you're going to try and paint what you see. Just simplify it. I'm making the shape of the balcony pop out by using some dark paint to make a dark shadow underneath the balcony. Haven't painted the balcony as such, just done the outline of it within the shadow colour. You can see how little detail there actually is in that building there, and yet it does look quite complex. And then using neutral tint and this size 8 brush again to do these areas as it goes into the distance, as the canal disappears there, the other side of the bridge. And in the photograph there's lots of pedestrians, which I'm going to whittle down to about 4 or 5. Just want the impression of some shapes of people walking across the bridge. Put just a little bit of life into the painting, but they're just going to be marks. I want everything here to be impressionistic. And then doing the soft at the other side there. Once again, just a few black lines broken where there'd be some ornate carving and things there. So I'm not really chasing realism. I just want just to get the feel of this place. And then once I put the big shapes in, everything else here is just a suggestion. Quite like the vertical of this aerial there, so I'll put that in. And everything's connected. Bridge, buildings. There's some boats there as well, which I'll be putting in a minute. Putting in these darks, which really stand out against the lighter buildings. Using neutral tint for all my darks at the minute. And just a hint of some dark shadows on these window frames here, on this building on the right hand side. Come around quite carefully, loosely but carefully. It's quite a lot of pencil lines for me to work with here as well, just to keep me on track and keep the composition looking right. Being mindful of the perspective as it runs off into the distance. That's why it's quite useful to use this pencil drawing as an aid. It's got the perspective in there. I've already worked out myself. You can see how it's coming to life with its darks against the light walls. And then once I put the shadows in later on, that will really make things stand out. And then I'm just putting in some doorways and things that you can see the other side of the handrail of the bridge. And if you look at that really nice shadow under the bridge, you'll see that it's the anchor of the building, it's the anchor of the painting really. And if you get that right and it works, it holds the whole thing together. I'm doing all of the top part of the painting first, and then I'll know what I'm going to do with or where I've got to go with the colours on the reflections, which is why I'm not doing everything at once. And it also leaves this bottom area clear for me to put my hand on and work while I'm touching the paper. And then there's this dark black mark where the wall touches the water. As in a lot of cases where the buildings touch the water, there's this dark line. This is burnt sienna. There's a couple of boats there moored up against the side of the building there. There's a pavement, and then using some dark paint to do in the distance there. Once again, not making too much of it. All of the materials and things like the brushes and paper I'm using will be in the description below, so there's no need to make a note of anything. You'll just find it. You'll find it all in there, as well as some comments on things like the composition just to help you. Now I've switched to a rigger brush here. This is a size 1 Rosemary & Co. Pure Sable from their 88 series. It's got quite a fine point on it, which I need for doing this handrail. And there's these pedestrians going across the bridge. Nothing more than a few marks. Not making too much of these at all, like the buildings just suggested. Just using neutral tint for all my darks here. work quite fast with these, doing these fine bits, but it still takes a while to do it, and I do have to think a bit as I go. Now I'm back to using a size 12 brush for this shadow colour, and I'm really just using that colour that was there top left of the palette, which was the light red neutral tint mixture. Going straight over, doing the shadow shape, applying the paint quite rapidly. This will look better if you don't fuss around with it. And just using it to touch in a few little shadow bits here and there. I wanted to get everything more or less done at the top there before I start on the lower part of the reflections, so I can see exactly where the buildings are to match them up with the reflections. And when you do your reflections, you don't try not to do them exactly the same tone of the colour. I'm using the same colours I did before. This is cadmium yellow, a little bit of alizarin crimson, and I've dipped into the sepia blue mixture. Bringing this down. The right hand side is going to be in darkness to match the shadow, but I want to give the whole area a wash first with this building colour, slightly darker, and I want to leave some areas of white. Looking at where there might be white bits in the building to mirror them in this water. Quite a large brush so you can cover quite an area quite fast. Make sure you have a pool of enough paint when you start. And then there's a pavement on the right hand side here that takes the eye, or keeps the eye from coming out of the painting on the right hand side there quite nicely. Keeps everything contained. Takes you down that river under that bridge, that lovely ornate old bridge. I'm really just using what paints are there. This is the old mixture there out of sepia and white, I think it was, and then just darkening things up as and when I want to. Make this more of a bluey grey now. Making sure there's lots of nice ripple lines here, white, which is the white of the paper. Finishing off this bottom left edge with cobalt turquoise. The paints I'm using are some are Winsor & Newton and some are Jackson's Art Supply's own artist grade paints. The neutral tint is Jackson's. Light reds is the Winsor & Newton. I want to mirror this dark reflection there, dark shadow on the right hand side of the building there in the reflection. And then put a nice dark against light line on this pavement, which is quite a nice effect. Everything's starting to look a bit fluid on this part of the painting. And then where the boat is, there'll be a much darker reflection there on the water. Darkening out quite a bit on the bottom left there, reflecting this wall in the building there on the left hand side. And then there's these dots of darker colour, which is the windows reflected in this canal. Quite a watery mix on this bottom part there, just varying it a little bit, and just taking some of the white off of this canal there and the building under the bridge. Now let this dry, and then once again I'm going over with the putty rubber just to get rid of these last pencil marks that are there on these white areas. I want these to show out as white, they look more effective as dead white. Going over it always, everything's dry. This is a medium grade putty rubber. Now if you want to have exclusive paintings, the place you'll find that from me will be on my Patreon channel, where I do these paintings that you don't get on YouTube with full instructions, no breaks, and they don't appear anywhere else. Got a community there, you can get the outline drawings, and all the members and the payments just help me to run the site. It takes quite a lot of work and effort to run this YouTube channel, and which I hope is very useful for you. I put my signature in there, doing a little bit on the building there, and that's the second piece in the series. Coming to a conclusion. Strong composition, there's clearer atmosphere and a more deliberate approach throughout. It's got structure and direction. I think the shapes read, the light works, and the painting stays focused. Now if you are painting along, I'd say focus on the big shapes and the mood. Detail won't fix a weak structure. I'm going to take the masking tape off. Just use normal masking tape, household masking tape, to tape the painting to the board Take the paper to the board, carefully pulling it away from the painting. And there you are. Lovely Venice. Thanks for watching. The next one in the series will push this further again. See you in the next one. Bye.